Hello everyone who are with us online. Good afternoon to our audience here in Clermont-Ferrand, this great audience. Good morning for all people watching us from IT, and good lunch for everyone in Brazil because we know it's lunchtime. Welcome to our panel. I'm Thais Correa, and together with my colleague Guilherme Adorno, who is here in the backstage with us, we are delighted to moderate this discussion today. The idea is to have a more interactive and dynamic chat to explore this fundamental question that's how do algorithms and artificial intelligence reshape power in digital age? So we know that those technologies are no longer simple tools. They structure communication, they influence our political decisions, they transform scientific knowledge, and it goes on. And to go deeper in this subject, we have here with us two great experts in this area. Here we have Patrick Etier, and online with us from Brazil, we have Virgílio Almeida. They will share with us their opinions and their point of views about our topic today. And before we begin, just a quick note about our format. So I will first briefly introduce our guests, and then they will have time to connect, to share their experience, and to tell us how their work connects with our topic today. After this, we'll move into our 5 main questions. And every time we finish with the question, we're going to open to the audience and everyone online who wants to participate, to make a comment. So prepare yourselves to share your opinion with us as well. So introducing here first Patrick. Patrick is co-founder and director of the École supérieure d'infotronique d'Haïti. He has studied engineering in France and computer engineering in the US, and has been living in Haiti for more than 30 years now. And from Brazil, we have Virgílio Almeida, Emeritus Professor of Computer Science at Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais, and a member of Brazilian Academy of Science and the National Academy of Engineering in the United States. He serves as a faculty associate at the Berkman Klein Center at Harvard University and holds the Oscar Sala Chair at the Institute for Advanced Studies at Universidade de São Paulo. Unfortunately, our third guest will not be able to join us today, but I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation with Patrick and Virgílio. So now I would like to invite each of our speakers here to briefly introduce themselves and explain how their research, how their work connects with this transformation brought by AI and algorithms. So, Professor Virgílio, may we start with you?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Thais, for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and Patrick. And also I'd like to thank the invitation to be part of this workshop or seminar. Well, I've been a professor of computer science at the Federal University of Minas Gerais for more than 30 years. But in the beginning of the 2000 years, I was invited to go to government to serve as the National Secretary of Information Technology Policies. And there, the experience that I had there during 4 years changed my view on the research of computer science, and also on the responsibility of computer scientists in this new age where we have digital devices all over the world, and everyone interacts with them many times a day. So my research focuses on governance and policy for the digital space and artificial intelligence. But I have an emphasis, and the emphasis that I try to use the lens of evidence-based to discuss policies, and also to propose new policies. So my work is organized along 2 main research lines. empirical work and theoretical work. In the case of the empirical line, I work with computer science colleagues and students that work with me to generate evidence that informs the design of digital and AI policies. So that's the empirical work. And on the theoretical line, I've been collaborating with colleagues from political science to develop new governance frameworks for algorithmic systems and AI. And that has been very important for me because I learned from them a lot about the way that they see the technology. So that's the combination of the two research lines are very important for me. And I will try to come up with some examples during the topic discussions, some examples from Brazil to make the discussion more concrete. Thank you again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Patrick, it's your turn. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. First, as Virgilio said, I'm going to say the same thing. Thanks for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here with this panel and discussing with you, with Virgilio, and the public also, certainly. So my name is Patrick Attier. You introduced most of it already. I would say that we started falling into the AI marmite, as we would say in French, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, just after ChatGPT became available to the public. And we realized this was a major disruption potentially coming in the next few years. So we realized that content in French was lagging behind content on English platforms or US platforms. So we saw there was a niche there. There was a possibility to develop our own content based on the best content that we would find on the US and French platforms also. So we started developing our set of trainings and courses. And so we have been doing it for 3.5 years now. We have done more than 74 interventions, either in Haiti or online with West Africa and also the Middle East. Some of our courses are part of the catalog of qualifying trainings from the AUF, which gives us an open window to Middle East and Africa. And we are currently working with UCA. And so we have done also a lot of webinars and interventions of like 1 or 2 or 3 hours to introduce the University Senghor in Egypt very recently, like 3-4 weeks ago, through Zoom, as you can imagine. It was like a 3-hour intervention on, I would say, general panorama of generative AI tools and how useful they could be. Just to finish, I would say that our philosophy, if I can call it that way, is really not to worry that much about the dangers of AI, but to be very aggressive in mastering the tools of AI so we can not just be consumers, but also become producers of solutions. I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So it is interesting what you said, because that brings us to our main discussion and to our first question. So I don't know you guys, but I have this impression that I hear a lot that AI and algorithms, they are changing our lives, our power dynamics. But I wonder, how can we notice this change in everyday life? I mean, in our social relations, entertainment, information access. Do you have an idea? Maybe, Virgilio, we could start with you. Then you could take the opportunity to introduce a little bit the concept of algorithms as institutions for those who are not familiar with.
All right, thank you. During five years, I was the chair of the Internet Steering Committee in Brazil. It is a multi-stakeholder body that produces not laws, but best practices, and also influence the government on internet policies. And I have noticed that in this governance body, there was no science, just the opinions. I learned a lot from the NGOs and from the companies, but I wanted to do something more more fundamental to understand what are the theoretical frameworks for governance. And so I started working with two colleagues from political science, and we worked on some governance frameworks and discussed the importance of bringing political and social sciences studies to computer science. But at one point of our collaboration, we started asking the following question. What if we view algorithms or algorithmic systems as institutions? And why is that? Because algorithms are social technical artifacts that structure our decision-making capacity. They establish boundaries for individual behaviors and also with collective implications. So I saw that, well, maybe institutions can bring us some new ideas for governing this environment. So in this work that produced, we wrote a book on that was published by Oxford University Press. The main ideas that we present are algorithms act like institutions, shaping behavior through often opaque rules. They reinforce what is visible and they make something invisible. So that's an important aspect of the algorithms. And being far from neutral, algorithms reflect and amplify existing social hierarchies. And the platforms that have these algorithmic systems, they are unaccountable and they can threaten democratic processes. So, like institutions, we think that algorithmic systems must be democratized to ensure transparency, accountability, and governance. So that's the basic idea that we discuss in the book, and we present an analytical framework to look at to view algorithms as institutions. And I think that the practical consequence of that is that we should learn from the way that political scientists review and evaluate institutions to bring those knowledge to this context of algorithmic systems that are pervasive in our society all over the world. So that's the idea of algorithmic systems. So regarding your questions, I would like to make an initial comment and then Patrick will talk about that. The first thing is that there is one new aspect of algorithmic systems that is going to become very important in the now and also in the near future, which is called the algorithmic persuasion. And we can define it as the process of a deliberate attempt by a persuader to influence the beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors of people through algorithmic communication or through online communication mediated by algorithms. And where is going to be the importance of understanding that? Is that because this aspect, specific aspect, the capacity of persuading people will have a lot of impact on elections. And there is no regulation for that.
Before we move to Patrick, can you give us an example, Virgilio? Like, because in your book you talk about banks, you talk about a lot of institutions that utilize the algorithms to change our lives and to influence us. Can you give just an expected of how they work in our daily lives?
Well, we can see that they define what we see. They define our urban mobility through Uber, through Waze. They define what kind of social help people can get from the government, and they define if you can go to another country. So they define almost every aspect of our life. But we don't know what are the rules. We don't know if they suppose that you ask for a credit in a bank and you don't get that you cannot borrow that money. So why that was not accepted by the bank? What are the rules? We don't have access to that, and in the case of the social media platforms, they do whatever they want in terms of keeping us engaged with the content, but we don't know how they do that, and we don't know how they collect our private data, and there are no rules. In Brazil, we tried 3 years ago through the Congress to approve a law, what was called at that time the law of fake news, but Congress was not able to come up with a decision. So this is basically what we see. They are unaccountable. They interact with us many times a day, and sometimes somehow they drive our life.
Yeah. Thank you, Virgilio. We're going to talk later a bit of this regulation that happens in Brazil and in other countries. But Patrick, can you answer our first question about this change in our everyday life?
Yes, I will probably bounce on what Virgilio said and maybe extend it a little bit with a couple of examples. First, I would like to say that this happened before AI. What they call legacy media have existed for decades. They shape what we see, they shape what we think, they shape who we think is nice, who we think is mean, which country is great, which country is not great. We get this information from those legacy media. Then we have the social network that are in competition with the legacy media, who do part of the job also. It's a mess, it's a cours des miracles a little bit, but it's there, and a lot of people are going through it and are making an opinion through those social networks. Now you have AI. AI, as Virgilio said, has a very powerful characteristic. It's a sentient being, and I put that between quotes. Of course, we can always debate how sentient it is or it is not, but it's a sentient being who knows everything about every subject. Again, I put that between quotes. We can always debate where the limits are. So we have this knowledgeable being with us for free or for $20 a month, whatever platform we use, who can answer basically any question. And if we know how to ask the question, we can have very powerful answers to very complex questions. Now, as Virgilio said, they shape what you see, because you make your opinion on what you read, what you hear, what you see on social networks, on newspapers, on radios. So they shape what you see, they shape your opinion indirectly. So power is not only anymore in the hands of governments, even though we could say that governments, especially in developed countries, they make decisions also based on AI predictions. So they have to regulate AI, but they also make predictions based on AIs that they have to regulate. So it's a Cornelian problem, I would say. Then there is power in the hands of the public, but this power is shaped also more and more by AI, as more and more individuals will go to ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, or Claude, or whatever else model they want to use to have an opinion on a subject. They will less and less do it through newspapers, through social networks. They will do it more and more with AI. So we are going towards a shift of power here where AI is going to have, I wouldn't say the monopoly, but a very big role to play in the way people think. And as Virgilio say, therefore, in the way people will vote, people will buy, people will decide, etc., etc. So it's a very powerful thing. The question is really to consider AI not as a tool, but maybe more as an infrastructure that shapes our reality. How do we control that? How do we control the reality that is shaped by AI? Is it controllable? Can we bring it back to real reality? Or is it going to go like that and we cannot do anything about it? And frankly, I don't have the answer.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, do you think we can control it? Because you said, how do we do it? But do you think we are able to do it?
Personally, but that engages just me. I might be very wrong, and I hope I am. I don't think we can, because there is a lot of subjectivity in controlling it. When there is subjectivity, you can ask the question, who are you to control what I think? Who are you to agree or not agree with what I think? And we see a lot of that those days, either in France or in the US, where people who don't think a certain way are ostracized or marginalized, etc., etc. And this is not due to rational thinking. This is due to what a lot of people have seen on the media, and we are all subject to it. And if our critical mind and our logic is not very developed, we're going to be victims of that. And the digital gap is probably going to be bigger and bigger and bigger and faster, probably. And maybe this will be for another question, but it's really the intellectual capability of the human being are even more important right now with AI than they were before. But maybe we can.
No, but that's
I have also a comment on that about about your question, if it is possible to regulate AI.
Yes.
There is one empirical observation called the Collingridge dilemma. And what that means, it was proposed by an UK physicist in the early 70s, and summarizing what the article says is the following. It is easy to regulate a technology, an emergent technology in the early days. But in the late days, where the technology has a lot of impact, it's very hard to regulate. And if we wait too long to regulate, we as a society will lose control. And that's what we see. And a concrete example is the case of, for instance, Facebook and WhatsApp in Brazil. They now dominate, they now are used by 90% of the population. It would be easy to regulate it in early 2012, 2013, when they just began to operate in Brazil and had 5 or 10 million users. But now that they have 130 million or 150 million users that depend on them, so there are many interests, not only individual interests, but companies and government. And that's why we were not able to regulate. So this Collingridge dilemma shows one thing. The technology, and AI is a good example, evolves so quickly, but the government changes are slow. They need a lot of discussions, consensus, and this gap becomes one big problem for those digital technologies.
True. I think we just, I had We were planning to do this question about government later on, but I think we can just bring it up here because since we are talking about politics and regulations, so we say, Vigilio, that you think our political systems, they are trying to regulate, to govern AI, or actually it's AI that is guiding our political decisions? Do you think this affects our notion of democracy as well? So it's maybe a two-way around for the politics and then AI trying to catch up with all this innovation?
Let me discuss a concrete case. Recently, Brazil has approved the Child Protection Law. And that law was in Congress for a long time, or the proposal, the bill was in Congress for a long time, but they did not discuss that and came up with a decision. But after the evolution of AI, it was observed by society, and also it was publicized by some influencers, the impact of AI-led content on children. So, and there was a TV show called Felca, one influencer called Felca, that brought a lot of AI-driven videos and things that showing the negative influence. And that, I would say, that triggered the action of the Congress to discuss that. So in this case, AI was the driving force to discuss one bill that became a law. I think that's a good example because another problem is that it's even very difficult, not only for Congress, but for the society to understand what those technologies mean and what are the impacts of those technologies.
It's really hard to catch up with all this innovation, but Patrick, what do you think? How do you see those regulatory trends, maybe in your country or in the world as well?
In our country, one of the big issues that we have is controlling our data. The data is on the cloud, Microsoft Cloud, Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud.
Yeah.
It's all over the place there. So it's not, I would say, on Haitian territory in a way, and it doesn't, and the infrastructure doesn't belong to the country, to Haiti. And there are probably three things that are important in terms of governance. And we should ask, can we govern those? If we can't, what can we do? What else can we do? The data, as we say, having the data, not only producing data to feed our own AI models eventually, and having the infrastructure to host those data. As we know, the US is investing trillions of dollars building data centers. And Europe is investing too, but much, much, much less than this. The other thing is who developed the models. All the models are developed that we use, at least, are developed by the US. So we have absolutely no control of that. We can complain as much as we want that it's a black box. We don't know what it does, how it reaches conclusions, even though it's not totally true today anymore. But there is still a debate. The models, the infrastructure, and the data, we control none of them. The models are developed by the US. I defy you to give me the name of a company in Europe or in France that can stand in front of the big boys like OpenAI, Google, etc. Besides Mistral, it's very hard to find another one, very hard. So since we control none of them, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
And since the governments, they make decisions also, at least partly based on predictive AI models, that they have to govern, as we say, they have to regulate. What can we do? Europe has chosen to regulate. Europe has created the AI Act, the RGPD, the DSA. Soon they are coming with the digital shield, the democracy shield, etc., etc. They chose that their niche is to go. I do not believe Europe can catch up with the US or China, but I really hope I'm wrong. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So they have to find their niche. India has gone into developing agricultural solutions. So they use US models, but they develop their own solutions doing fine-tuning. It's like creating an expertise of those models on a specific area. Estonia, that you have probably heard about, the little genius in terms of e-governance of Europe. Estonia has created their X-Road, which means they control the flow of data on their territory from A to Z. It's not going outside of Estonia unless it's absolutely necessary. We should ask yourself, what can we do? Where should we focus? We have to find the niche where we can focus, since the big boys are so much ahead of us that it's not worth, and we can't even make the investment. We're talking trillions of dollars to be competitive. Can we make those investments even in Europe? I'm not sure. So it's really questions that we have to ask, but controlling the data, I think, is a requirement, without which it's going to be very hard to develop other significant solutions.
And since we are talking about data, I would like to move to our third topic. It's like scientific knowledge, because I think it's really related when we talk about university and data and knowledge production. So we know that artificial intelligence is being used to produce, to validate, and to distribute knowledge. And this raises a profound question. It's like AI accelerates knowledge, centralizes, or minimizes. So how do you think this artificial intelligence is transforming the way knowledge is produced and distributed in universities, for the research, and for the companies as well? Virgilio, can you start giving your point of view with universities?
The general question of the impact of AI on scientific environment has many different aspects. One of them is reviewers are using AI to review papers. AI is being used to write articles that are the number of articles submitted to magazines and journals have increased a lot. So it's changing that characteristic. But I think that there are other points that we should look. One is AI has been used by students to do their homework, to do their practical work, and we need to create rules for them. So for instance, in our university, we created the rules for the use of AI in the graduate courses, in the undergraduate courses, because there was one thing: students were doing everything with AI, and they are much ahead of many of the professors, because they know all the tools, they know all the stuff to use them. But we cannot forbid the use of AI, because in the future of this, the students now, they will work with AI. So we need to create some kind of knowledge to help them to use those technologies in a positive way that contribute to their education. So we need rules for the use of AI in the scientific environment, so in the university. But AI is also a very powerful tool for us to do research. And let me give you an example that is a recent example. I have a group of students and working on aspects of analyzing climate misinformation in the global south. So what we did, we analyzed a large-scale data set of almost 3 300,000 videos of YouTube about climate. And we using AI tools, we found that psychological traits strongly shape the engagement. Emotions and moral aspects consistently drives more interaction. And what we saw is that the content generated by scientists, the content generated by government in this context of climate misinformation, they do not attract people. AI content attract people much more than the maybe the more solid and concrete knowledge. So it's impact that we observed. I have numbers and I can show that later on. But AI is driving the attention of people. It helps to keep the engagement, reaction, comments, whatever you do as a reaction to a content. So that will also bring a lot of consequence because AI is present in almost, actually it's responsible for a very large part of the content distributed in social media.
It's interesting because in our previous webinar, we were talking about this, how it's impossible to forbidden AI and how we can create rules, especially for universities and academic space. And what do you think, Patrick? What do you think it's happening now and what should we expect?
Probably it's a question of competitivity and productivity for our research lab in the world now. I see some of the culture is to say, oh, we're not going to use AI to produce scientific knowledge because it has to be done by the human. But then you're in competition with labs who use AI, who produce more knowledge and publish more often than those labs. So it's really an issue of, and we know that labs receive funding partly based on the quantity of publications and knowledge they produce, which is normal. So it has a direct impact on the funding, on the publication, etc. So saying I won't use that because it's not ethical is probably a big mistake. But there is another thing. Imagine that you have a population of millions of geniuses that you can access for $20 a month, who know everything about everything. Again, I put that between quotes. This is what's happening faster and faster. So for developing countries, for countries who are constrained in terms of resources, having access to that is absolutely incredible. And I'm talking for Haiti, but I'm talking under the control of my colleagues here from Africa. I met Bertrand yesterday, so. But it's an incredible opportunity. You've probably, we are talking about that, and there is a new revolution coming. It's called incarnation. In the religious sense of the term incarnation, and I'm not a religious person, so I'm not just making a comparison. It means putting something in the flesh. So putting AI, the AI I have on my computer right now, is in the computer. It cannot get out of this. When we put it in a robot, this AI is going to have an actual physical impact on the physical world, which those cannot yet, at least not directly. And it will probably increase the speed at which those AI become intelligent, because they will collect much more data, much faster, from everywhere in the world. Imagine you have millions of robots in families, etc. And so this is data that will be used probably to increase the intelligence of those things. So instead of having millions of geniuses at your disposal 24 hours a day, you are going to have millions of Nobel Prizes at your disposal for $20 a day. I mean, a month, not a day, a month. So this is coming. And so as long as we know how to interact with the AI, how to give the AI the specifications that it needs to have to be used that way, we are going to change probably the linear progression of the scientific method. The hypothesis, the test of the hypothesis, the peer review, and the publication. AI tools today have the capacity not only to work on your hypothesis, but to propose new hypotheses. It has the capacity to help you accelerate the testing methodology. It has the capacity to write the publication for you. Maybe not 100%, but at least to save you 70, 80% of the time you would spend doing it. And you can publish now not necessarily only on the traditional journals like Nature and many others. You can publish now on things like Google Scholar, for example, very easily and be viewed quickly. Now, this comes with a problem, is that on one side, you have the professional, if I can say, researchers that will publish very high quality content. And you have a new category of publishers of content that might not publish that high quality content. And those two are going to counter each other in a way. So this is probably the risk. It puts down, at least lower the barrier of access to research and publication. But at the same time, it will come with content that might not always be the quality that we want it to be. And this is quite an issue, I would say. And with incarnation coming, probably it's going to change the paradigm again. So we will do all this thinking, create laws, regulate, and then we have the robots in our families that will work and play with our kids, that will go to the office with us and do our job, or at least part of our job, do everything for us, basically. And we're very close to that. This is not science fiction anymore. So what are we going to discuss at this time? Do we regulate what the robots do? What will be the topics we need to talk about? And again, I don't have the answer, so I'm sorry. Ask questions that I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
No, I have another question because you're talking about this intelligence, where it's coming. And Virgilio, I know that you published a recent article about agents, AI agents, like that we use a lot to do our tasks every day.
Yeah.
So before we open to our first round of questions, maybe you could talk a little bit of this opportunity and danger of the AI agents.
Well, I'm going to follow Patrick's words when he says, I don't know how to solve that. And that regarding agents, we don't know how to do that, because they can do a lot of things in an autonomous way, and we don't know where they are, what kind of things they will do. There is no institution to follow the work done by agents, and also to guarantee that they are doing good things. And I think that this problem of governing autonomous AI agents will be a big problem, because we don't know what to do. And they can do things much faster than humans. And how can we control them? So we need to start working on some technical aspects, such as we need to be able to monitor the work done by, or the actions done by agents. We need to be able to audit what they are doing. So we need that, but in order to do that with agents, maybe we'll use some algorithmic, also some technical layer to control them, and that represents something that we are very afraid of, the reduction of the space for humans. And so there are many questions, and I think that this question of the agency of agents and the agents of humans, that's going to be an important questions to be discussed by society.
And maybe our audience here has some questions regarding what we have discussed so far, or online or in presence. Do you have any questions so far? No? Guilherme, do you have anyone?
Actually, I think about the notion of responsibility. That is, if AI makes decisions but cannot be responsible, then what does responsibility even mean anymore? And how should we begin to rethink it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a philosophical, but it's a good question. Yeah, I don't know if Patrick, you want to have a word of that, like this idea, even the idea of a responsibility now, it can change, right?
It certainly is. Again, I don't have a perfect answer. I might give you the answer based on my experience, and I'm sure if we had a lawyer, maybe he would give more details. But right now, from what I see, at least in the US, if you use the content that's produced by an AI, and I hope I'm addressing your question, you're responsible, not the AI. The AI is not a legal entity. So, which is a good thing because it puts pressure on you to verify, correct, and do what you have to do before you use it. There is this example of this lawyer in the US, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. He went to plead a case at the tribunal, and he mentioned old cases. I know there is a term in legal domain, but I don't remember. And one of those cases, or two of those cases, didn't exist. And the judge saw that. So no need to tell you, he had a very bad day, this lawyer. Very, very bad day. And I think he was banned from the barreau. I mean, I'm mixing French and English, I'm sorry. Not forever, but he was banned for a while. But he probably, I don't know, maybe that day was very much in a hurry. He asked ChatGPT a few examples. He went with them and he mentioned them. I don't know what happened exactly. But he was responsible, not ChatGPT. And there are a few examples like that. Again, with plagiarism, if you have a text with some part of it that has been generated with AI, with some part of it that's a text from an author that is still that we are still submitted to intellectual property for this author. You're responsible, not the AI. The AI is not a legal entity and cannot be responsible. I know the Supreme Court in the US ruled recently also against the fact that if you produce an art with AI, you cannot be intellectually the owner of this art unless you prove that you have collaborated with the AI. And it's very hard to prove that, very hard. So, but it's still a moving animal right now. Legal framework in the US is very light. The lawsuits are the legal framework in the US. In Europe, we have a very structured and very sophisticated legal framework for those things, but we basically have nothing to regulate except the American companies. So it takes us to where do we want to stand? Like, for example, in Haiti, or maybe in some countries in Africa, are we going with the US culture, or are we going US culture that says no barrier, create companies and become the first in the world? We can argue it's good. There is some good, some bad. And Europe is let's regulate everything because AI is dangerous and we have to regulate and protect the people. Do we want to go on one side or maybe take the best of both worlds in our countries? And this is a discussion we have to address in our countries. Which culture do we want to adopt? What I see in the Caribbean a lot are discussions about the dangers of AI. and very few discussions about becoming productive with AI. And this bothers me. We will have the same discussions 10 years from now, but we will still not be economically competitive with the big boys or the big girls. So again, it's a discussion. I don't have an answer for that, but those are really two cultures to address, and which one do we prefer?
Virgilio, do you want to comment?
Yes, I have three short comments. The first one is regarding the idea of responsibility. I think that we should start discussing a discipline or a course that we need to teach researchers and students about what is responsible AI. And that's an area that's it's very important to use the AI in a good way. And many universities around the world are offering these responsible AI courses with some ethical principles and rules to do a good use of AI. Well, the second question that Patrick brought is very interesting. It's about risks and innovation. He said that they think that the emphasis should be put on innovation. I agree with him, but the issue of risks is different for different countries. In Europe, the risks, maybe the social impact is not going to be so strong as the social impact in Brazil, where we have a lot of inequalities. And if AI do a lot of impact on labor, and that's a big problem. So we need to be concerned with the risks in a country like Brazil, where there are many big social and economic inequalities. So as he said, and Patrick said, we need to get the best of both worlds, trying to adapt to the reality of our countries. In Brazil, it's very important to understand what are the risks of AI and automation, because we are not prepared for that, for the AI automation.
And we are talking about countries now, US and IT, and I was wondering, we know that this AI ecosystem is really dominated by United States and now China as well. But do you think other countries that are outside of this axis, they have the possibility of technological sovereignty? Because it's really hard. It demands investments, it demands money, political influence, or they are heading towards like a technological dependence. How do you see this movement happening in many countries? But is it possible to achieve this sovereignty? I'll start with Patrick.
Well, it will depend on what you mean by sovereignty.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, if sovereignty is having our own models, our own LLMs, as they say, having our own data, our own infrastructure, I think we don't have the means to do that. And if Europe doesn't have the means to do it, I don't see where they would spend $1 trillion in infrastructure, developing models, etc. You probably know that Musk spends $1 billion every year just training his model Grok. $1 billion. Who in Europe can do that? And I'm not talking about any other country. Mm-hmm. So, but again, you can have sovereignty on things that matter to you. Mm-hmm. So things that matter to you are your data. You want to have sovereignty on your data, and this is very achievable. Even if you host those data on the US cloud, at least you produce your data and you have control of them. Ideally, of course, you would invest in some local infrastructure that give you even more control on your data. Things that you don't want is, for example, what China is doing, scoring. So based on your behavior on social networks, your purchasing habits, etc., they will create a social score that will be used for different things. that I won't go into. And we don't want that. And I think the legal framework of the European Union, I think the AI Act forbids using AI for this kind of thing, which is a very good thing. So yeah, really, it's really a question of what matters to us. And as Virgilio said, it's different for every country. Every country has its own priority. India chose to develop competencies in training existing models, foundational models, on agriculture issues to develop their own thing. In Haiti, we're still thinking about it. We're seeing a few, again, agricultural solutions. Like, for example, in Haiti, we have an application to detect diseases of mango through a picture, to predict the disease of mango through a picture. It's a template that can be reused for many other situations. So each country has really to decide what matters to them. And then it becomes achievable because the costs are becoming much lower. And the training issues of the people, of the skills that you need locally is very achievable also. So it's really about what matters to you in your country and focus on that. Don't focus on developing your own ChatGPT or your own, that costs hundreds of billions of dollars to do and billions of dollars every year to keep it alive and evolving. So, yeah.
Virgilio, what do you think? Do you think we have priorities in Brazil as well for our sovereignty?
Well, I think this is a very good question, and it's very relevant to understand what are the roles of different countries in this geopolitical scenario. Your question is, do countries outside the US, China, axis have the real possibility of technological sovereignty? Yeah, that's the question. Yeah. My short answer would be, real possibilities exist, but they are very limited. But things are changing. Let me show how and why. The first thing that is important in the case of Brazil is the size of the Brazilian digital market. It's 230 million people that do a lot of things in the digital platform. So it's a market. So companies have interest in that. The second point is that the role of Brazil in global forums such as BRICS, G20, innovation, it's important because this role can influence countries regarding the regulation and also that impact on sovereignty. But there is one new point that is very interesting, Thais, is that the strategic position in supply chains. I think that they offer a greater geopolitical leverage. Countries in Africa, countries in Latin America, Brazil is one of them, and Asia hold key critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements. And these resources are essential for semiconductors, computing infrastructure, and digital and AI technology. So that will allow these countries to move beyond just consumers to also have some influence on shaping the rules because of this strategic position. China and US both depend on these critical minerals. So that's going to be an opportunity for Africa, for Latin America, to suggest new, to influence the discussion about regulation and about sovereignty.
Yeah. It's really interesting. We know the case of Bolivia and many other countries that try to fight back all these big techs. And I don't know if do you have any questions? Yeah.
Yes. We have two questions.
Yeah, Guilherme will just read out loud, please.
Okay. So the first one is, what are the ways to resist, to outsmart the work algorithm, or to make it work in our favor?
Question by Octavio de Barros from Brazil.
Okay. Did you get the question? Can you repeat, Guilherme, please?
What are the ways to resist, to outsmart the web algorithm, or to make it work in our favor?
Okay. I know that Virgilio has already an idea of this resistance and how it can be done. So, but I would just first listen to Patrick, and then Virgilio, you can add your opinion as well, please. Is it possible to resist? How can we do it, Patrick?
Yes, it depends against what we want to resist. If you take, we have talked about that yesterday during your workshop days, languages. We know English is very dominant in AI. AI acquire their skills being trained with data. The same way our brain is trained. We are trained with professors, we are trained at school, we are trained in the family, we are trained with our friends. We have data coming to our brain all day long, from our skin, from our eyes, from our ears, etc., etc. And our brain is being trained with this data, like AI. It processes this data, and then it makes us what we are at the end of the day. So AI is not that different in a way, because its architecture of neural networks tends to replicate a little bit how the brain works. Now, the problem with that is that when you train an AI, you need to have data to train it. Where do you find this data? On the internet, on public databases. And most of this data is English. As we said yesterday, more than 60% of the training data for AI is English, is in the English language. So we can, and the more data you have to train your AI, the smarter it's going to be in this language. I told Saulo earlier that I tried to learn Russian for 3 years and a half. And I'm still very bad at it, very, very bad at it. I haven't had enough data for my brain to become good at it. Now, if you want your languages, if you want your AI to become better at some African dialect, Haitian Creole, and other maybe less spoken languages, you will need to produce data, create content on the internet that the AIs are going to use to try maybe to rebalance a little bit this balance of power, I would say. So the country that produce, or the region that produce more data in its language, is going to be more powerful indirectly with AI at the end of the day. If you are raised in England, you are going to have a different view of the world than if you are raised in France, or if you're raised in the US, or if you're raised in Brazil. You are going to see the world differently. You are going to have ideologies, principles, maybe religions that are different. So AI is similar in a way to that. So the view of the world of AI, once it is trained, will highly depend on the quantity of data that it has used in certain languages to be trained. So one of the solutions I would suggest, I'm not saying it's an easily applicable solution, is to create ecosystems maybe where the people in those countries produce content, and much more aggressively than they used to do. People in Haiti would produce more content in Haitian Creole. People in Brazil, maybe, or even for Portuguese is a good one. It's in a good position. So yeah, it's really about producing more data, more content in our languages if we want them to become a little more present, and if we want the AIs to master them close to perfection, like they do with English or French or those dominant languages. So this is just for data for languages. This is the only example I'm going to talk about.
But I know Virgilio has another example for this resistance regarding algorithms. Virgilio?
Well, Thais, let's look at the problem from two different views. One is the country, how the country will resist to algorithms. Regulation is the key. We need to regulate algorithmic systems. We need to make them more transparent. We need to make them more accountable. So it's something that countries need to do. But there is another aspect that we also, as a country, should be able to produce AI technology. Let me give you an example. DeepSeek, the Chinese technology for AI, they don't use very large computing infrastructures. They don't invest trillions, but they have developed a good language model, a good foundational model that solves most of the problems. So we can work on that. And what do we need to work on these solutions in our countries? We need to invest in science. We need to support universities doing science. We need to create some incentives to keep the scientists in our country. Otherwise, they will go abroad. So it's possible, but we need some policies. We need some government policies to do that. And I think that the example of China in the DeepSeek is really good. The other thing is that, can we resist in an individual way to algorithms? Maybe we can do that. And some people also do that using, for instance, if you know what are the words that make your comments more visible. So you can do that, or you can use words that the algorithm do not consider harming words or things like that. So we can create forms to individual characteristics to resist to algorithms. But I don't know if that's going to be possible in the future. Algorithms are going to be part of everyone's life. And it is interesting because one recent work published in a journal in the US, in a social science journal, showed that almost they analyzed the mechanisms used to create couples in the US. The couples were in the past created by relations in the work, by friends, by family. Now, the dating services are responsible for almost the total number, or not the total, but in that research, the huge number of the couples, the couples that were formed because the algorithms try to match them. So I don't know if in the future we can, as individuals, to resist.
Virgilio, we didn't hear your last words because it has.
Oh, well, I said that in the individual aspect, it's going to be very hard to resist to algorithms because they will be part of our lives. But as a country, it's possible to create some ways of resisting to algorithms, such as regulation to make them transparent to society, to make them accountable to their actions. So it's possible. It's possible. We need regulation.
It's just, you talked about couples in the US, and I remember reading that in China, the government has a website and has an algorithm to make it easier for the Chinese to get in couple. So it goes really beyond the private sector. And do you have any other questions before? Because we move to the end. So if you have one more question.
Comments about the solution.
Yeah. So No, before we move to the questions, I think Patrick, you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe another thing that comes to my mind is about using local solutions. Today, you can use local models. So you can download models. You can download models from ChatGPT, from OpenAI for free and use them locally. So you will use the intelligence of those models on your own issues. It's like having a cardiologist who knows a lot about cardiology, but who knows a lot about general medicine also, and asking him a question about your problem that doesn't have anything to do with your heart. So you would use the intelligence and the knowledge of the AI that has been trained. You download it locally on your own local network, and you use it to solve your own problem. And if you fine-tune it on your own problems, like for agriculture, for example, for detecting mango disease, for example, then you have a local solution that you have developed. You don't need to have a foundational model that costs a lot of money. So there is also a lot of opportunities here to create interesting solutions and valuable solutions. The other thing is an example I saw a couple of weeks ago. They made a competition between the 4 main language models, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, and Gemini. And they asked them to invest money, and they would measure who is making money and who is losing money among those models. The only one who made money was Grok. All the others, they lost money. And they explained that not by the fact that Grok is more intelligent, but Grok is using agent, and Virgilio was mentioning that. And I think this is another huge opportunity to create solutions, taking into account what Virgilio mentioned in terms of the black box. How do they make decisions? How do they do this or that? But this is a huge opportunity. Grok has created what they call an orchestrator who controls everything, and is controlling 3 other sub-agents. One of them is searching information on whatever source. The other one is a financial analyst, so it will analyze this information. And the third one is writing reports. So they are each specialized with a set of skills, and it's orchestrated by the main orchestrator. So that at the end, they each do their job, they collaborate, and they give the report writer gives to the orchestrator the final report. And Grok won, not only because he has been doing a good use of agents, but because he has the most computational infrastructure, the most powerful computational infrastructure in the world right now, worth around $10 billion data center. So, but the point is really, we have an opportunity with developing our own content, developing our own sub-models, I would say, using existing models, specializing them in certain areas, and mastering agents, which is very accessible, mastering the development of agents, which we can consider like little employees, literally, who do the job of a human employee, maybe faster and with a lot more data that it will look at than our poor little brain is going to be searching for. Mm-hmm. So those 3 things I wanted to mention as solutions for countries who are not going to develop a ChatGPT or a Gemini or a Grok or whatever. But those are big opportunities. Those are $1 billion opportunities, probably.
Very interesting. And Guilherme, do you have a second question?
2 questions.
Yeah.
Possible.
Go on.
So the next one is from Papangu. How do you see the future of copyright protection for artists in the age of AI?
Did you hear, Virgilio? Do you want to start for the copyright?
Well, it's, let me see how I view that. I have 3 books published by Prince Hall that were used by Anthropic to train in the the millions of books that they use to train their system. So I got a letter from them informing that I will be able to receive some part of that. But there's some part of they had one collective agreement that will pay the authors of those books. So I don't know how much it's going to be that, but the interesting point is that those rules were defined basically by Anthropic and not by the discussions with the authors or the writers. So I think that we also need some rules discussed by society, represented by writers, authors, about how they will be compensated by the use of their work to train those models.
Okay. Do you agree, Patrick, about the copyright and our question?
Totally, and I'm not an expert on copywriting, so it's a very hard question for me. I don't think they can fight it, honestly. I don't think so. They will fight it for a while, but they will probably lose this fight. I can make a video and create an avatar of Thais right now in 10 minutes, making her say whatever I want her to say for whatever time and publish it on the internet. So how are artists going to fight that? And if I can do that, some who are more expert than I am in video creation and this kind and content creation, they have incredibly powerful tools where they don't need a camera anymore. They don't need the green screen behind them. They don't need any of that anymore. Tools like Sora from OpenAI to create normal videos. Tools like HeyGen that we can use to create avatar with lip syncing video based on a script that we write, or that we can have ChatGPT write also. The image generation today is becoming so precise, and text incrustation inside the image is becoming so good right now. And the capacity of the AI to follow detailed instructions to create this image for you that would require a Photoshop expert a few months ago. Today I can do it in a few minutes. So there will be a fight, I'm sure, but I think they are going to lose. They will either adapt and integrate those tools to their process, which is probably going to hurt some actors, some producers, that's unavoidable. And hey, job is going to be hurt in any area. So why would we decide that artists should not be hurt also? And I'm not saying that's what I wish, but there are also another set of skills that is going to be hurt by AI. And to be honest, I don't see them winning this fight. The same way I don't see coders winning the fight of AI creating code in their place. I don't see graphists winning the fight, spending days creating an image on Photoshop when I can do it myself when I'm a zero competence in visual creation. I can do it in a few minutes. So I can create my logos, my flyers, my brochures in a few minutes. And it's pretty decent. The result is pretty decent. So I don't think they will win this fight. But maybe a couple of years from now, they're going to tell me I was wrong. And I'll be happy to be wrong, because if they win the fight, that means the others also. In my area, I can win the fight also, but I don't see it happening.
But I see a movement, because I'm not sure if they're going to win the fight, but I'm seeing a movement of people demanding like non-AI work. Like I want human work and paying a little bit more to make sure that there was someone behind it. And I talk about a text or an art. So maybe it's going to be like this. We have to decide and make it clear that we don't want AI involved, and then we can keep a little bit of the copyright and the artistic scene, but it's one possibility.
Yeah. Maybe the only problem I see with that, and that's certainly an excellent idea, is that it's close to impossible to know that something has been produced by AI.
It's gonna be
So
like
I
a
could tell you,
confidence, yeah.
you will pay a little more for my art, and I promise you it's made by AI, and I've
And
done
we'll
it
not be sure that
in an hour with AI. And there is this example of this researcher from the University of Lille who produced a thesis in 85. He put the text of this thesis in an AI content detector, many AI content detector. The average was that 84% of chances that the content was produced by AI. And this thing was written in 85. So we know there was, at least not as far as we're concerned, AI there. So it's nobody can tell you today that you use AI. We could have an idea, we could suspect, but there is no way to conclude with detectors. And it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better, probably.
it's harder every
So,
day.
yeah.
Do we have another one, Guilherme? Another question, please?
Next is from Cynthia. It's a philosophical one, I think. What impact could AI have on the human memories, especially for aging populations?
Really interesting. Virgilio, do you have an idea, like the impact of our memory?
Well, I don't have an answer, as Patrick said, but I have two comments. The first one is that AI has been used by companies or by firms to replace humans. And I think that instead of just replacing humans, we should try to support or to create incentives for human AI collaboration. For this collaboration, that's going to be important in the future to keep human agency in this new space. So that's one point. The second point is regarding the old people. I think that we need also to promote technology that help them to live better, that help them to have maybe a better memory. I've seen some applications designed to help people to live better, to help old people to live better. It's possible, and it would be interesting if this could be a priority in some organization of the government, in social or healthcare organization. That's going to be important for the future. Well, I think that the point is AI has a lot of good things, has also a lot of negative impacts, and we have to work to minimize one and to combine the positive things that are important for our society, in our countries. So I think that, as Patrick said, we have a lot of good opportunities, but we need knowledge, we need trained people, we need universities.
Do you want to comment?
No, just one thing. I think the negative impact of AI is going to be directly proportional to our capacity to think. For me, it doesn't go further than this. We will need knowledge, but people who think will acquire knowledge much faster, for sure, and in a much better way. And really, our capacity to think is not being obsolete because of AI. This is a big mistake to think that. I think there was a study from MIT about cognitive capacities of people using AI. You heard about that?
Yeah, to write the text.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And the conclusion is that the trend is that they lose cognitive capacity if they use AI compared to those who don't use AI. But it's really think to their capacity to criticize, to think, to have a logical mind. And those who have that, they will not lose probably cognitive capacities. Those who don't, they will lose them even faster. So this famous digital gap that we talk about might be exponentially increased by AI if the population using them do not develop those skills. And those are human skills. Those are not like AI-owned skills. And they are more I would say, up to date than ever.
Yeah, you're right. And we are just almost in the end. So I think if there is one key takeaway of our today's discussion is that we can no longer see artificial intelligence as only a technical matter, right? Because we discussed it here how it reshapes power, narratives, knowledge, science, and democracy itself, and how those transformations play a role in different countries and different contexts. So maybe just for us to reflect, our best shot to overcome those challenges would be like social movements, participate in partnerships. And so I want to thank you all for this rich exchange. But before we close, I would like to give back the mic to Patrick and Virgilio in case you have a final word or thought to share with us. And then after we can finish. Do you want to start, Patrick, please?
I'm going to be very quick.
Yeah.
I think we should stop worrying about the dangers of AI and train ourselves, become very good at using it, not being scared of it. It's not a technical issue. So stop being scared, stop listening to fortune tellers that will tell you AI is this, AI is that. Yes, it's dangerous, as Virgilio said. Yes, it has to be watched, but some people are taking care of regulation. I'm not going to do it in their place. So my focus is really to learn how to use it and to become better and better at using it. And the better I become at using it, when I say I'm talking in general, I understand how it works. I understand the issues much better. I understand the limitations much better, rather than just talk about it. And I hear a lot of debates, a lot of presentation on AI. And as I say, in the Caribbean, we have a kind of the same tendency to talk about the dangers of AI rather than the appropriation of the tools of AI. I see Europe as some of that, probably. We have to stop being afraid. Let's move fast and learn how to use those things. Develop our thinking, develop our prompt engineering skills, which is the key. It's really one of the keys. If we don't do that, we will keep on crying about it for the next 20 years.
Virgilio, maybe you have a different view that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, I thank you for the questions, and also it was a pleasure having Patrick with us. We have different opinions, and I think that that's a good reason for this debate. I think that societies in many countries, not in all of them, are not prepared for the AI. They need, we need more education to prepare the young people, the children, for the AI-led future, and that's going to be the key. We need also to know them how to look, to have a critical look at AI. So AI is going to be very important. It's going to transform the life in the future, and is doing that now. But we need to prepare the society for that. We cannot just rely on the big tech companies to do that. So governments, social NGOs, non-government organizations, and also private companies should help to train people for this new times that we will see the dissemination of AI technology in our daily life.
Thank you, Virgilio. I would like to thank again Patrick and Virgilio for their presence, being here with us, and everyone that's here in presence at Clermont and online. The webinar will stay in YouTube, so if you want to see it again and share with the link with your friends. And we hope this conversation continues beyond this panel as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.